are listening to Lighthearted, the official podcast of the United States Lighthouse Society. My name is Jeremy D'Entremont. Welcome. Today is July 5th, 2026, and this is episode 348 of Lighthearted. I hope you've all had a great 4th of July weekend, and happy 250th birthday to the United States of America. 237 years ago, a federal lighthouse service was established. Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, told President Washington, quote, "In keeping with our free country, lighthouses should be free as the air," unquote. So long may our country continue to be free, and may our lighthouses continue to stand as a symbol of our commitment to each other. We're actually stepping slightly outside the borders of the United States for this episode. Our subject is Head Harbour Lightstation on Campobello Island, New Brunswick, Canada. Campobello Island is in southwestern New Brunswick, Canada, near the border with Maine. About 15 square miles and with a population of less than 1,000 people, it's the site of the Roosevelt Campobello International Park and the Head Harbour Lightstation. With trade, fishing, and shipbuilding flourishing on Campobello in the 1820s, it was decided that a lighthouse was needed. The lighthouse and other station buildings were constructed in 1829 on a tiny island just offshore from Campobello, accessible by land only at low tide. The 50-foot tower is one of the oldest surviving wooden lighthouses in North America. The station remained staffed with resident keepers until its automation in 1986. A group called the Friends of the Head Harbour Lightstation was formed in 2000 to preserve the site and its history. Ilana Grallert is on the board of the Friends of the Head Harbour Lightstation and performs all kinds of functions for the group, as you'll hear. Ilana was formerly a processing specialist at the Special Collections Library of Dartmouth College. Let's listen to my conversation with Ilana now. I'm speaking today with Ilana Grallert. And Ilana, in just a second, I'm going to ask you to pronounce your name in the proper German way for me. But Ilana is on the board of the Friends of Head Harbour Lightstation on beautiful Campobello Island in New Brunswick, Canada. Thank you so much for doing this today, Ilana. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeremy, for asking me.
You're very welcome. So let me ask you to please pronounce your name correctly. I can't do it justice with the proper German pronunciation. How do you say it?
Ilana Grallert.
That's beautiful. It sounds much nicer the way you say it. And let me ask you, you are on the board of Friends of Head Harbour Lightstation, but I understand you kind of wear a few different hats in that role. What are some of the different, I'm sure there's a lot of things, there's probably infinite number of things you do, but what are the main things?
Well, my main position on the board is I'm the secretary, but I'm also been running our membership drive. So I'm the membership coordinator. And I'm also working closely with the two students at the kiosk and visitor services. So anything that has more the organizational aspect to it. We're also right now short a treasurer, so I've been doing some of that as well. So we're in a transition right now from the old board to a newer board. And so some of the things that need to be done are sort of falling on me unexpectedly, and so I'm a little every now and then I get a little overwhelmed.
Yeah. Oh, I understand that any small nonprofit organization has issues along those lines, and they're lucky to have you, somebody who's willing to step in and do a lot of those different things. When you say the kiosk, you're talking about at the place where people start the walk out to the lighthouse, right? There's like an informational kiosk. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we call it the headland. It's where you drive up. There's a small kiosk where you pay your fee and where you get information. And before you set out on the journey to the lighthouse, the kiosk is only open when the tide allows us to be. And they've always called it a kiosk. I don't know any particular reason why or why not. It's just that I was told that's what they called it, the kiosk.
Yeah, that's probably as good a word for it as any. Let me ask you, before we get more into the lighthouse, a little bit more about yourself. You've been associated with Dartmouth College here in the state of New Hampshire, where I live. I don't live near Dartmouth, but I'm certainly familiar with it. Have you retired from your role at Dartmouth?
Yes, I was actually at the Dartmouth Libraries in the archives. I was a processing archivist for about 15 years. I processed manuscript collections, which are people's personal papers or companies' records. It was a great job. I loved my job. But I also wanted to spend more time on Campobello, so I retired a little bit earlier than I'd intended, so I can be here on Campobello, not realizing that I'm actually having a full-time job right now.
Right. Full-time volunteer job.
Full-time volunteer job at the Lighthouse, yeah. So,
yeah.
But no, Dartmouth was great.
Mm-hmm. And from what I saw when I Googled you, you have an interest in cemeteries and burying grounds. And actually, I think maybe there might have been tours and also a podcast related to that. Is that right?
Yeah, that's how it started. As part of the team at Rauner. Rauner Special Collections Library is where the archives of Dartmouth College are kept. And also is we have a reading room where students come to do research. We offer classes, professors bring their classes and so on. So we have a reading room. And the reading room, everybody that worked at Rauner had to also spend about 6 or 7 hours a week at the reference desk in the reading room. And we were always getting requests for the cemetery because the cemetery close to the college green is the old Dartmouth Cemetery where the founders of the college, Eleazar Wheelock and his family and early professors and trustees are buried. It's no longer an open cemetery. It's an old, nobody can be buried there anymore. And so I was just looking into that a little bit. And then I put together a little tour. I picked up information about the people that are buried there, starting with the Wheelocks, and had little show and tells. I would photocopy some of the archival material that we had, photographs or something. And I started a small tour, first for just library employees as a thing for the library. And then it just became bigger. More people wanted it outside of the library. And then it became that I did one, and this was over probably 6, 7, 8 years. I did them for the Rotary. I did it whenever a group wanted to have a tour. I did it. And they became a little bigger also because we have a medical school. Dartmouth has a medical school. We also, part of that cemetery, there is a plot where the ashes of the cadavers that were donated to Dartmouth Medical School are buried. And so I did a whole thing about the Dartmouth Medical School, about grave robbing and things like that. So it became actually very popular. And out of that came some of the other things. So the podcast, it was really only a limited podcast that I did with students. So I was overseeing it, but the students had to pick somebody that they wanted to do a podcast about, and then also tie it to maybe something that's of interest to the students today. So somebody did something about a person that had something to do with the grave robbing, for example, or with student debt. So tied it to, what it costs to go be a student back then and so on. So it was like, I think 8 episodes that the students did themselves and I just oversaw. And it was always meant to be limited. It wasn't ongoing.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so different things like that I did, and it came out. And this was over the 15 years that I was there. I probably did it for about 10 of those. Yes, it was fun.
Yeah, I'll bet. What an interesting subject, graveyards and cemeteries. And here in New England, we have so many fascinating old burying grounds and so forth. And, I always feel that I don't need to tell you, every gravestone tells a story.
Absolutely. And I also try to include, because the question that I ultimately always got, where are the people of color buried? The slaves that built Dartmouth College,
right,
or the indigenous people. And I did find one woman of color in that cemetery, and she was only there because she was emancipated and converted to the local Christian church. But that's a whole other thing, that where the people are buried. And before they had the plot for the medical school, cadavers were just buried somewhere. And so there's quite a bit of stuff that you could have done. And I worked with people in the anthropology department to maybe figure out where those early, 18th century, 19th century cadavers would have ended up. And so there was endless possibilities to explore it further. And we try as much as we can.
It's a fascinating subject, and I'd love to talk more about it. We should probably steer back towards lighthouses. So let me ask you a 2-part question at this point. Have you had a long association with Campobello Island? And part 2 of that is, how did you get involved with the lighthouse?
Not that long. We purchased the property in 2018. We just fell in love with Campobello Island. My husband and we had been to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and I liked the vistas. And when we found Campobello Island, it was sort of a miniature version of what I liked about in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. And so we bought it in 2018. We had a little cabin, just a tiny 250 square foot cabin, because we were not here longer than a few weeks at a time because we're both not retired. And in 2019, we had it nicely we spent our first few weeks here in 2019, and then COVID hit and Canada closed for a year. I was the second person over the border when they opened, the day they opened.
Oh, wow.
Over the border. And so we've been here since about 2019. I was previously involved with the library and museum on Campobello Island because as a processing specialist, I helped them with processing some of the collections that they had related to Roosevelt and other people and the early owned people from the island. And then I was just going to be a summer visitor. And then I retired in 2024. And last summer was the first summer where I basically spent the entire summer here. I had been out to the Lighthouse, but had not been particularly that overly interested in it. But a friend of mine, Peter Harworth, who is now the president and who has the island, he does island tours, sightseeing tours for tourists. He had been involved with them for a long time. And because the leadership had aged, a lot of them had died and the leadership had aged, it had been sort of, and I think COVID probably was an issue too. Everything had laid a little bit dormant. And so last year I said, you know what, let me see and they didn't have any volunteers because all the volunteers died. I said, you know what, maybe I'll just help you find some volunteers. There's Folk Fest, which is a yearly festival of music that they have on Campobello Island. Why don't we just put a table there with some signs, sign up volunteers, and then you have some people that can help you work out there. It invigorated everybody that was still involved with it. We got volunteers. I signed up over 20 new members as well. So then I started helping out at the kiosk. I had some ideas what we could do there. Yeah, and that's how I got involved with it. But again, I was just supposed to help. I had not planned to be leading this as I'm doing right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But over the winter, the Joyce Morel and Jen Miners, the founders of the Friends of Head Harbour Lightstation, Jen became very sick and couldn't do the work that needed to be done. And so when I arrived in May, I was kind of thrown into catching up and doing some things that needed to be done. And now it's become a full-time a full-time job, which is fine. I love it. It's great. But in the future, I'm hoping to have some more help and, get more people that could do some of the stuff that I'm doing right now. That would be nice.
Yeah. No, I completely understand. These places will kind of grab a hold of you and not let go and pull you in more and more. But mostly a good thing. That's mostly a good thing, but to a certain point. And
I have had some really good ideas. We have, I came up last year with the idea, and you know that probably because you live in New Hampshire. When you drive up Mount Washington, you come back, you get a sticker that says, "This car climbed Mount Washington."
Yep.
We now have, when people come back from the crossing, they get a free sticker that says, "I crossed over to Head Harbour Lightstation," with a picture of the drone shot of Head Harbour Lightstation.
Oh, that's great.
Sticker everybody gets, because I had that idea because it's a bit of an effort to go to the lighthouse. So little things like that. I had some ideas about how to spoof things up at the lighthouse.
Yeah. Yes, well, that's a great idea. Some lighthouses, especially really tall ones, will give a sticker to people. I climbed the lighthouse or whatever. Yeah. But yours is such a different experience. I think it's nice to reward people for that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it is. And we opened for a preview weekend over Memorial Day, and the stickers were a big hit. So I know they're going to.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to talk about that walk out there in a few minutes, but tell me if I've got this wrong. The official name of the lighthouse on Campobello, off the northern tip, is Head Harbour Lighthouse, or light station, but I hear it referred to a lot as East Quaddy, and it's my impression that's sort of a nickname just because it's corresponding with West Quaddy over in Lubec in the U.S. Yeah,
that's what it was. Mm-hmm. They wanted to differentiate it from West Quaddy. And
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you find it more in older literature. So when I did some research for the archival part that I'm also interested in the late 19th century and early 20th century, it's more often referred to as East Quaddy. But the official name is Head Harbour Lightstation. Yes, and you said it. It's a light station because it has 5 buildings on it.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a very complete light station. I don't think much has been lost over the years. It's
No, a jetty has been lost.
Yeah, yeah.
That's about it. Yeah.
What makes Head Harbour Light Station such a special place?
Well, it is the oldest wooden lighthouse in New Brunswick. In 2029, it'll be 200 years old. It is one of the oldest wooden lighthouses in all of Canada. What makes it special is that I think it's how to get to it, right? It is not easily accessible. You cannot just stroll there and get in the lighthouse. You have to put an effort in. The ocean floor, we do try to prep it. My husband earlier in the season was down there with the weed whacker, cutting the seaweed as much as we can to make some sort of a path. But it is still a challenge. And I'm being of a certain age, when I see people that I don't think that can do it, I will discourage them from doing it. We haven't had, knock on wood, any injuries of any kind, which surprises me because it is not an easy walk. So that in itself is the adventure, right? It's the adventure is to get there is half of the adventure. And then because it's so nicely out in the Bay of Fundy, it's just a beautiful spot where you can, if you spend a little longer time there, see some marine life, whales and such, and also birds and seals and, because it's jets so out there. I mean, otherwise, I don't think it differentiates that much from other lighthouses, except that it's an entirely wooden structure. And then there is a boathouse, which now houses just supplies. Then there is a foghorn building. Then there's the lightkeeper's house. And then there's the tower itself. Now, the history was a little bit that it started out just being a tower, but they built the keeper's house later because there wasn't enough room in the tower once the keeper had also more family like that. The foghorn and the light are still maintained and operated automatically by the Canadian Coast Guard. So they come and maintain it. We have a helipad, so they come with their beautiful red helicopter and come and fix and do whatever they need to do. But we own the buildings that are on there, and also the building where the foghorn is in. So, so that's our symbiotic relationship right now. Otherwise, they have no real input with anything that we do.
So you just mentioned the Bay of Fundy. That brings up why you can only walk out there at certain times near low tide, because the Bay of Fundy has the largest tide changes in the world, right? Of any.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in the world, but definitely up there, one of the largest. And the tides are very strong and it's very dangerous, right? So you can only cross over. We call it 2 hours before and 2 hours after the lowest point of the tide. So you have a 4-hour window. And that changes every day depending on the time, obviously. And that's the only time that you can go over by foot. Otherwise, it's covered underwater. The entire path is covered underwater. I was just there the other day at high tide. And when you see that current pushing through there, you know why you should not walk there when the water starts coming in.
It rushes in.
Recently, but I was told that people have been swept away in years past and have died. And people also have been stuck on the island when they were smart enough not to try to cross over. So we try to be very proactive when we're there, but we're not always there, right? And people do what people do. But what I found, this is Canada. And in Canada, proceed at your own risk. That seems to be enough for people to step back from liability issues.
I don't know if that applies in the U.S. as much.
No, that's what I mean.
That's a challenge.
I don't think it applies in the U.S., but in Canada, you see all these beautiful places and there's no fences and there's nothing on the cliffs. Newfoundland, you could just fall off the cliffs. But there's always a sign that said, proceed at your own risk. So it's up to you to make the smart choices. and not try to get that selfie and be washed away like on Peggy's Cove.
Yeah. Here, I think people see that as a dare. You're not going to tell me can't proceed here. So,
Yeah.
and
So,
also people pretend they never saw a sign or they couldn't read
well,
it.
our sign is very big
Yeah.
before you get to so people, you can't miss it.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the fog. As you said, you mentioned the fog signal there at the light station, but also you mentioned if I heard you right, there's an event called the Fog Fest, but I just want to say that I have read somewhere that it might be an old joke, but the people have thought that the Bay of Fundy is where fog was invented or where it's manufactured. I don't know if you've heard that, but certainly fog is a constant part of life there.
It is. And actually, from what I read very early on, when they had, back in the late 1880s, Campobello was touted to the rich and wealthy in New York and Boston as a summer retreat. That's when the Roosevelt came to the island as well. And one of the things that sort of contributed to the decline of this community in the early is that people realized it's very moist and very cold and very foggy. And they were not advertising that when they tried to get the people from New York and Boston up here for a summer retreat. I read that. I don't know if that's true, but I read that that's one of the contributing factors. So yeah, the fog is ever present. The Fog Fest has not really that much to do with the fog. It's a music festival, a free music festival. It's actually fantastic for like 3 days. The people that run Fog Fest, they get grants for it, and they have musicians here at different venues. And it's a really fun thing to do for the 3 days that you can come. And it's one of the busiest weekends here on the island. Mm-hmm. And it's usually at the end of July, beginning of August.
Yeah, that sounds great. So in spite of all of the fog and chilly weather and stuff, why do you love Campobello so much?
Well, what I mentioned earlier just a little bit is that I like the vistas here. And also, it is still not overcrowded. This is not a Bar Harbor. This is but you can get the most beautiful views. The carriage roads in the Roosevelt Park that I sent everybody to after the Lighthouse, if they'd not known about it, where you go to all these different, the Liberty Point and Raccoon Beach, and even on the height of the season, it's not overcrowded. I like that. I hate crowds. So that's what I loved. I loved that there's still, even though people are, it's a touristy area. The one disadvantage a little bit, although now that we're working actually a little bit in conjunction with the Roosevelt Park. So they're because most people know the island because of the Roosevelt International Park, right? Yep. A lot of people think that's what the island is about, but there's so much more. And they're now reposting a lot of our stuff that I put on Facebook so that people also come now because it's at the completely other end of the island, right? So that is, yeah. But to go back to my question, yeah, I just loved the way it looked, and I just like that it's not overcrowded with stuff. Yeah. So that was my why. And we have had to have also a very nice property right on the water, so which you couldn't afford anywhere in Maine.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I easily believe that. And I for me, it was the same thing. I remember crossing onto Campobello for the first time and thinking, well, this is beautiful, and there's hardly anybody here. Just a really quiet, relaxed feeling to it. I remember stopping, I don't know if the place is still there, stopping for like a lobster roll or something like that along the way, and just really pleasant people. And it just had such a nice feel to it.
It has a nice vibe to it. Yes, it has. Yes. There's nothing really fast and loud, and there's no bars here, right? There was some concern among some of the older members of, we don't want this to turn into Bar Harbor, and I'm thinking this will never turn in Bar Harbor because we don't have any bars, and across the federal border. So if you come to Campobello, you have to purposely come to Campobello because you have to have your passport with you. You cannot just, let's do a little quick trip to Campobello. No, and I think that makes it also prevents it from being like overrun with people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I liked.
Yeah. Well, I go back to the day when you could just drive up to customs and say, I just want to go photograph the lighthouse, and go ahead. That was it.
I understand that's how it was before 9/11. I think after 9/11, things got much, much tighter at the border.
Yeah.
And now it's even
more so. Yeah.
Things are a little, I mean, they're still, friendly, but there's a few more car searches now mostly on the Canadian side. And, but if you have nothing, if you declare everything you're bringing in, it's not a problem. So I don't find it a problem, but it could get annoying.
I got to tell you about one of my first visits to that area. This is probably 30-ish years ago, maybe even slightly more than that. I went to Lubec and I made contact with, and he might still have the business there, a man, I believe his name is Matt Green, the whale watching company based on Campobello. Is he still around?
He's still around. He's now with the Canadian Whale Rescue.
Okay.
He's one of the main people at the Canadian Whale Rescue. He had for a while the grocery store when we moved here, but he was only part-time with the whale rescue people. He's now full-time Mackie Green with the whale rescue people right now.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, anyway, so I contacted him and I told him, I want to photograph the lighthouses around here. Is there any chance I could get a boat ride like around Campobello? And he said he arranged it for me with a fisherman friend who took me out in his boat. And it was a boat he built himself. It was a ramshackle wooden boat. What an experience that was. Nice guy. We got near Head Harbour. I shouldn't say this, but this is 30 years ago, so nobody's going to get in trouble now. But we got near Head Harbour, and on the rocks were two bald eagles right near the lighthouse. And I said something like, oh, it'd be so great if I could get a picture of those eagles flying in the same picture, with the lighthouse. And he said, oh, okay. And he started yelling and jumping up and down in the boat and waving his arms around to scare the eagles so they would take off, which they did, but they flew in the opposite direction. So I didn't get any good photos or anything, but I will never forget that. So, of course, that's highly illegal and I don't recommend it to anybody.
Yeah. I wouldn't. But yeah, no, the eagles, that's another thing. I have never seen eagles until I came to this island. And as around Head Harbour, there's always a nest in a particular tree that they go to. So yeah, so eagles are pretty cool.
Yeah, well, they are. It's always a thrill to see them, even if you've seen a lot before. It's just they're amazing animals. I guess this is a pretty obvious question, but what is the mission of the Friends of Head Harbour Lightstation? Obviously, is to preserve the buildings, but would you say there's more to the mission?
Yeah, it's our mission statement. Our motto is preserve, protect, and promote. So the preserve and then the protection, but the promotion too. So we that's why we have the walkovers. We did have a web page, but I created a new web page. We have the Facebook page now, Head Harbour Lightstation, where I post every night for the next day, the crossover times once we're open, and some other interesting information and photographs. And that has grown from like 100 people in the beginning. We have now over 440 people following our Facebook page, and that's pretty exciting. But yeah, so we want to educate too. It's also about education, and our tour guides do some of that, tell the history of the lighthouse. But I'm trying to do a little bit more with archival. Unfortunately, I was told when the Coast Guard handed over the light station to the Friends in, I think, 2006, they burned all the logbooks, the lightkeepers' logbooks. As an archivist, that is something I cannot understand. And so there's a lot of information that is lost, especially as the lightkeepers are concerned. And so that's a shame because there's a lot of stories there.
Oh yeah,
could have been there. So I try to dig some of that up and educate people about that too. But yeah, it's basically preserve, protect, and promote.
Yeah. You mentioned the website. What's the web address?
It's headharborlightstation.ca.
Mm-hmm.
That's the web page. And then we have on Facebook, it's Head Harbour Lightstation. You just find it on Facebook.
Yeah. Of course, that's harbor spelled O-U-R, not the way we spell it in the U.S. But
thank you for reminding me. Yes, it's with an O-U-R. Yes.
The Canadian or British way of spelling it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The proper way, right? That's the right way to spell it.
It's funny, I'm from Germany, so I had to unlearn everything that I learned, right, with the spelling when I moved to the US, because I would have always spelled it with OU because we learned the British English in Germany.
Right. Color and a
Color
lot of words
too.
like that.
Color, OU, right? But now
Yeah.
it's after 35 years, it's also no longer in me.
Yeah. So is the Friends group all volunteers?
It's all volunteers. The only paid staff are the students that we hire in the summer. They're partially paid by grants, the Canada Summer Jobs grant, and also the SEED grant, which is the Student Employment Experience Development.
Okay.
We've been getting those grants for years. In years past, we had more than 2 students, and I think next year we need to get to 3, so I don't have to be in the kiosk for 7 days a week. But they're the only ones that get paid. Usually the high school student, although one of our employees, he's been with us for 10 years. He started as a high school student. He's now 26. And he's still doing it. So he's great. And those are the only people that get paid. Yes, everybody else is volunteer. Mm-hmm. And we rely on volunteer people to do any of the work at the Lighthouse as well.
Last time I walked out there was, I believe, 2019, not long before COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And there were at least 2 or 3 high school students out there who greeted us, which I thought was the greatest thing. They're really into it. They're really nice. I was really, really happy to see that.
And I think we're going to try to get, like I said, more next year. Again, the last couple of years, it's been just 2. But if we want to do, but we also didn't do the light tower tours as much because when we only have 2.
Yeah.
So if we want to increase those, we need to have more kids there. But no, they're great. They're doing a good job. They're from the island usually, so they can answer some more island questions for people as well. Because the other thing is too, we also are a little bit of a tourist information bureau because according to the grants, the students have to work 7 hours every day for 5 days a week, but we only can cross over for 4. So they're usually there 3 extra hours doing other things, but primarily people come at all hours of the day. Right? They don't really know, unless they follow us, how it works at the Lighthouse. So it is actually good to have them there outside of the tight schedule to explain to people, how it works and how you get to the Lighthouse. I mean, when you drive up, you have no idea. People are, so where's this Lighthouse? You don't know that you have to go across the...
Yeah.
But we have... I got a grant last year, and we're getting a beautiful sign that's going to be right by the entrance now, explaining it all. One of those signs that Canada Parks people have, that finally, when you drive up, you actually know what the story is there.
Yeah.
So people, when we're not there, have at least an idea. Again, knock on wood, we haven't had any injuries, so people must have not tried to cross over when we're not there at the wrong time.
Right.
Maybe we're just lucky, or I don't know. Let's not jinx it.
Yeah. So when people park there, if they either can't or don't or choose not to walk all the way out, how easy is it for them to get a view of the Lighthouse?
So there is a couple of really nice picnic table spots you can see. There is one view of the Lighthouse, of the tower, unobstructed. There's a little path which I point people to, but also we have signs there now pointing to a lookout. And it's a lookout, and that's the spot where you can get the unobstructed light tower without the vegetation. Otherwise, you can still see it, but there's a lot of vegetation in front of it. We have a volunteer that has begun to cut back some of that vegetation, so the views are a little bit more open. But to get the entire lighthouse, you would have to go to that one spot. But it's just a beautiful place to hang because you can still see, the ocean and if there's any wildlife or anything. And that is absolutely free. Anybody want to just stay for picnics or whatever at the headland, that is absolutely free. We do charge a fee for crossing over, and we do charge a fee for the tour of the tower, because that's the only income that we have besides grants and donation.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that, but I'm sure it's a very nominal fee.
We charge now $10. It used to be $5 for many, many, many years. but we just last year changed it to 10, which is still, I think, feasible. And again, it's our only income. And we do have some merchandise, some hats, some T-shirts, some postcards, but not a huge amount. So the main income is the crossing over fees and the tower tours when we can do them.
Yeah, there's not much of that value, that great an experience you can get for $10 these days. Probably pay close to that for a latte at Starbucks or something.
Yeah. So that's why I think it's nice that they now get a free sticker when they leave as well, So there's little things that we can enhance that with too.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Fog Fest before, the music festival. Are there other events held in relation to the station?
Well, there is another person on the island started the Sea Glass Festival, which is now in September. I think she's in her 5th or 6th years. So we do get a lot of sea glass people that want to find sea glass, always finding where's the right beach and stuff. So that is the only other event type thing. And then, of course, the Roosevelts have their own thing. The tea with Eleanor is fantastic. The having drinks with Franklin, which they're doing an afternoon thing where there's alcohol, which is the only thing that costs money. All the other events at the Roosevelt Park are free, but there, because they give the whiskey, whatever Roosevelt drank out, there's a fee for that. Besides the Fog Fest and the Sea Glass Festival, no, there is no festival per se on the island after that.
Yeah. I've done the tea with Eleanor at the FDR Park a couple of times, and I've
done it so many times. Every time we have visitors, we do the tea.
Yeah. Never done the drink with Franklin. That sounds interesting.
Once, yeah. Although my husband were not crazy about whatever his favorite drink was, whatever that was, whiskey. I don't know what it was. I have no idea. I don't know. But yeah, that's nice because somebody tells you the story about Franklin kind of stuff. So they do a nice thing.
Yeah. For anybody who's never been there, Campobello would be great even without those things. But the two places you got to see when you go into Campobello are Head Harbour Lightstation and the FDR International. Yes. It's hard to remember the whole official name, but
it's RCIP, Roosevelt International RCIP.
Roosevelt Campobello International Park, right?
There you go.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and that's what the main people think about. But then I was told our lighthouse, Head Harbour, is one of the most photographed lighthouses. I think the most photographed will always be Peggy's Cove in Nova Scotia. But they said, and if you look at it, it shows up in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We were driving to St. Stephen, right, New Brunswick, from Calais, Maine. Welcome to New Brunswick, and it's our lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We were at the bank, and the bank manager had our lighthouse on the wall. So I think it is quite a bit associated with New Brunswick. So and that's why it has some importance, also historical for that.
Well, it's definitely one of the most iconic lighthouses in Canada, no doubt about it. And speaking of that, one of the things, probably the thing that makes it so visually striking is the fact that it's a white tower with that big red cross on it. Mm-hmm. I know of no other lighthouse with that, daymark, as they would call it. Do you know what the story is? Why does it have that red cross on it?
I researched it a little bit. So it's the St. George's Cross, right? It's the same cross the Crusaders took when they went to the Crusades. The little bit that I was able to find is that it was put on there in the mid-1800s, around the time of the Canadian Confederation. First, it was only on one side. Then in 1902, they always put it on the side that's facing the ocean for the so that you can see it from the sea. So it helped with the navigational purposes. But that's about all I could find about it. But and the St. George Cross is, it's a British thing, right? It's a symbol of faith, military courage, national identity, and the Crusades. And it's mostly used related to the British Empire. And seeing that it was the 1800s, why they did it during Confederation when Canada, moved away from the British Empire, I'm not sure. But that's how I was able to discover about it.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. Of course, most vast majority of Canadian lighthouses are white and red, usually like white towers with red lanterns, sometimes with red stripes and things like that. But I think they just have always felt in general that the red makes them stand out better. It makes them more visible. I don't know why we have some red striped lighthouses like West Quaddy, for instance.
Yes, that one is that's
yeah, but we don't have a whole lot that have red on them. So speaking of that Red Cross, these days when it needs repainting, it's probably every few years or so, but who paints it? Do volunteers paint it? Does a contractor paint it?
So here's the thing about doing any work on Lighthouse Island. The logistics are a nightmare. It's a wooden lighthouse. The wooden shingles are rotting through regularly. Right now, there's a big hole in it, not through, just from the shingles, that we're hoping a volunteer is going to fix, but it's really high up. In the little longer run, we need to reshingle the entire lighthouse. And then in that process, the stripe, actually what they've done in the past, they would paint white ones and they would paint red ones and then put the red ones in with the white ones. So they paint them ahead of time. So it's not painted after because you're up there once, right? However, the problem with the wood rotting through is almost unsurmountable. And I've actually sent an email to the New Brunswick Heritage Commission to find out if we could replace it with composite shingles that look like wood, but are composite, which would make the caretaking for decades so much easier. So, but to answer your question, yes. So whatever volunteers can do, volunteers will do. A little bit at the history of the Friends of Head Harbour Lightstation. So when they began under the leadership of Jen Minus and Joyce Morrell, they had a lot of volunteers, mostly, again, retired summer residents, because the one thing, as you know, people that are younger have families, they have jobs. It's usually the retirees that are available to do it. And they had a lot of them, and they got grants, and they saved that lighthouse from deteriorating. Between 2006 and 2015, they were very active. The entire seawall was replaced. Everything was, all the shingles were done, were painted, new roofs, metal roofs, which are a lifesaver. And it was fantastic. And they had lots and lots of volunteers. On our website, there is the gallery. And if you can click on it, it goes to a Flickr site with hundreds of photographs that you can see the work as they were doing the work. And also to beautiful photographs of the lighthouse itself. So in order to just imagine what they did. Now, fast forward 20 years, all those volunteers, like I mentioned in the beginning, have either passed away or are way up in their 80s. And volunteers have stopped that volunteerism. My idea last year was, let's try and get it started again. Now, we're nowhere near at the stage that they were when they started. I mean, when you look at the pictures of 20, 30 people out there doing the work, I mean, it's very hard. I have to tell you, it's very hard. People are very supportive, but when you ask them to help, actually, less than you think are stepping up. But we have some. But then some work also needs to be done by contractors, right? The seawall was done by contractors. Reshingling the entire lighthouse, that needs to be done by contractors. There come the logistical nightmares. How do you get material over there? How do you get the things you have to stand on? I can't think of the English word right now. The scaffolding.
Scaffolding, yeah.
Getting over there. You have only 4-hour work window, right? So before you have to go back. Now, we have in the past where contractors will have stayed at the lightkeeper's house because there is water there. And a compostable toilet. So that is an option, but it is just a logistical nightmare. And so that's why what they achieved back in the late 2000s and early 2010s is quite amazing, because I can see this happening right now. I hope it would, but we are nowhere near that. So right now we're just trying to fix the hole with some of the volunteers, replace some shingles. I would hope that we could bring it back to where we had 20, 30 people out there working at the same time. So yeah, it's a logistical nightmare.
Yeah. Well, I know some wooden shingled lighthouses in this country that have had the shingles replaced multiple times, and they're not as old as Head Harbor. So I think the idea of a composite material is a great idea. I certainly would be in favor of that. And, some of us are sort of purists in a lot of ways about this stuff, but it's a completely reasonable thing to want to do something like that.
They did this apparently it's Swallowtail on Graham and Ann.
Uh-huh.
That's what they did on Graham and Ann. And we also found out the people that did it on Graham and Ann, and Peter Harworth, our president. So Peter is more in charge of that part of I'm doing everything else. Peter deals with that. So he's actually been in touch with those contractors, and we're going to see if we can get a price. And I'm waiting to hear if because we are a registered heritage building. I think all the lighthouses in Canada are. I think we're one of the few that is actually registered. So we need to apply to make sure that we change it and things like that. So
yeah.
That is one of our next steps. But absolutely volunteers all around. We need to get contractors in.
Yeah. So obviously it's a very iconic lighthouse. People love it, and Americans, many Americans visit it and love it, I'm sure. So how can people on either side of the border, how can people help? I imagine can you take donations through the website?
Yeah, not yet.
Okay.
Not for U.S. Citizens. By the way, U.S. follow us out on my Facebook and the analytics. The majority are people from the U.S. that are the supporters, and we're working on getting a PayPal account that we haven't done yet. We do have an Interact account, which is the electronic fund transfer that Canadians can do from one to the other, and we're set up for that. So if Canadians want to donate, they can do it right through the Interact, the electronic transfer through the banks. I mean, we are still taking checks, obviously, and our address is the one for the US and for the Canada. We have two different addresses. We also have two different banks for that. That is still absolutely acceptable. But we are working on getting maybe a PayPal account as well. We do also, for the first time since its creation, have a credit card machine in our kiosk.
Oh, good.
We used to be a cash-only business, but it's also almost not feasible anymore to have people expect to have cash on them. So this is the first summer that we're having a credit card machine. So theoretically, if somebody's in the area, they could donate money through a credit card as well. But we are trying to have another way for donations to come in.
But obviously, it's not so hard for people to find you, and if they want to make a donation, it's not hard to arrange that. Obviously,
no. But like I said, we want to make it easier, and get away from the paper checks. But right now, like I said in the beginning, we're in a transition from the way our stuff used to be run and bringing it further into the 21st century, going a little bit more digital. Something that the people, when they founded this, wasn't their strong point, or they weren't that interested in it, right?
Yeah.
So we were trying to change that a little bit. So I'm hoping to have something in place this summer. And that will then also be on the webpage to do that.
Sure. Yeah. I have to mention that one of the last times I was there, I think it was about, I'm going to say 2018, although I'm not 100% sure, but I was with the U.S. Lighthouse Society tour group. Low tide was early in the morning, and it was like a nor'easter. It was very windy and rainy that morning. So there's no way. We knew right away there was no chance of walking out there. But some of the volunteers from the group opened up a hall for us. I think it was a church hall.
Well, the St. Anne's, it probably was the hall of the St. Anne's Anglican Church, which, by the way, was the church of the Roosevelts. Also, it's not very big, but it's also a beautiful little church to take a look at. And it was probably that hall, yes.
Yeah, it was great. They put out donuts and coffee for us, and somebody did a talk about the lighthouse. It was just obviously people were a little disappointed we couldn't walk out, but it was beautiful what people did for us. So that's one of my nice memories there as well.
Yeah, no, like I said, all the people, the founders and everything, their love for the lighthouse and what they did and are still doing, there's no doubt about that. We just need to move it a little bit into the digital area, and seeing how well people respond to my Facebook page about the head. So you definitely want. I was trying with an Instagram, but I'm not an Instagram person. I don't really know how that works.
Well, I don't really either. But
the analytics for the Facebook page say that tell you what the age group is of the people that following, and it's 55 and up.
Yeah, that's the way it's become now, that Facebook is mostly for us old folks.
Yes.
And Instagram and TikTok are.
And I don't know anything about that. So sticking with Facebook, but
Instagram and TikTok are largely short little videos, that people can watch in 30 seconds or less.
That's what the pictures is. Yeah, right. I guess that's what it is. But
so I guess you almost have to be on there, but I don't know. I don't want to get into that too much, but I have mixed feelings about all of it.
But like I said, and I don't know how many people actually plan the visit based on the Facebook page, but at least I put it out there. Yeah. And people know what's what. And so that's what we're just trying to move with the times a little bit. And we're hoping we're going to move a little bit further. But any kind of support is, of course, helpful to us, because it's that and grants and people willing to, not grumble when they have to pay $10 to cross over. Most people don't. Every now and then get a grumbler, but then, it's all for the lighthouse. It's not for us.
Well, at our local lighthouse that I'm involved with, we haven't been able to do tours recently because of some storm damage. But for quite a while at open houses, we were charging $4 for adults, $2 for children to climb the lighthouse. And some people would grumble about that. So, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? That's right. And children under 12 are free. So there's that. So children can do both of those things free.
Well, anyway, I think it's more than reasonable, and people have to understand it's not cheap or free to.
And I'm also what I also do when I'm out there. Some people try it and they won't make it, and they come back, and then I'm also offering them the money back. And a lot of people say no, keep it. And over Memorial Day, I had this, and I thought that was really nice, where the woman said, "No, keep it, and have somebody else go over for it." That have the cash. So I thought, paying it forward.
Exactly. I was going to say.
I thought that was very nice.
Yeah. Whole paying it forward idea is great. I'll never forget being in line, drive through at Starbucks a few years ago, and the person in front of me paid for my coffee, and I was floored by it. I just thought, wow, what a beautiful thing to do.
I know. So that's we do that too. So we're not, about the money.
Right. Sure. No, you need money to survive. Yeah.
Also, and when I'm in the kiosk, I talk to every single person. I talk to them before they go, when they come back. Did you like it? How was it? Oh, wasn't it great? Would you like a stick? I really think you should take a stick. A third leg would be very helpful. And people like, I don't think so. They come back. Thank you so much for insisting that I take the stick to help me, cross over and stuff. So I talk to every single person.
Okay, I have one more question for you for bonus points. Okay. And that question is, what do you personally love most about your association with Friends of Head Harbour Lightstation?
That I can be of use, that my talents or the things that I know that I'm good at, I can put to good use. And it kind of helps to maintain this lighthouse, helps to keep it going. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't stepped up last year with people getting sicker over the winter. I think that's what I like. I like that I can be useful and use what I'm good at and help them to stay in business, so to speak. But I will also say we're having an annual general meeting coming up. I need help. I can't. This what I'm doing right now is not sustainable either. So other people have to step up and help me out because you burn out, as you know yourself. It is a lot. And I have to say, this is not until I've did it now, right now, I did not realize how much work the leaders did, the one that were in charge, but they did it all by themselves. And so it's a lot. But so that I can be useful. It also ties me a little bit to the island. I get involved with islanders. I believe that we need islanders to step up because it's really their lighthouse. We're just guests. We're the summer residents, we're just guests. It's really their lighthouse. So I'm trying to do quite a bit of outreach to hopefully get more islanders on board, also on the board. Because in the long run, we are old, right? It needs to stay with the people that live here, and it's their history and their lighthouse. So that is one of my quests going forward, trying to involve more people from the island and to stuff. So,
of course, there's not a big population base to draw from there.
There's like less than 900 people year round. And like I mentioned before, younger people are busy. The fishermen are, fishing is still a main source here. So yes, they're not as available, but sometimes you don't need to be physically there. There's a lot of work behind the scenes as well.
Sure.
That, I could have, I would like to have some help with. So I'm hoping, I'm reaching out. We're making some inroads. So hopefully in the future that's so that it moves to their hands, right? Because we're not at our age, we're not always going to be here.
None of us are.
Peter is 73. I'm 64.
Yeah.
No, it's somebody else has to follow us.
Absolutely.
I believe that should be the people that live here on the island.
Yeah. We're all trying to build a foundation for the future and make things sustainable. We don't want it to end with us.
But that's what I think. That long answer to a short question is, I think that I can be of some use.
Yes. Well, you are, obviously, and they're very lucky to have you, somebody like you who's so dedicated to it and kind of taking it to the next level, because it seems like it's very, very much needed. So
thank you for saying
on behalf of Lighthouse Nuts everywhere, I thank you for what you've been doing for Head Harbour Lightstation.
And I hope I see everybody that listens to it comes out to Campobello to check it out.
Yeah, I recommend it really highly. And I should mention that we have a U.S. Lighthouse Society tour group going there next Thursday. And you and I have been, going back and forth and making the arrangements and everything. I may or may not be with that group, but whether or not I'm there, I know the group is going to have a fantastic time. And
we are looking forward to welcoming the Friends of the U.S. Lighthouse Society.
Well, we really appreciate the fact that you're opening especially for the group. And
we're just praying for good weather.
Yes. Yeah, I know it's going to be a highlight of the tour and people are going to love it. So, Ilana, thank you so much. This is great. And, I may or may not be able to meet you as part of the tour, but it's great talking with you today, getting to meet you at least via Zoom. So thank you so much.
And come and visit us anytime.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have some great memories of visits to Head Harbour Lightstation, and it was fun talking with Ilana to get an update on the things that are happening. You can learn more on their website at headharbourlightstation.com. Remember, that's Head Harbour spelled O-U-R, headharbourlightstation.com, and on their Facebook page. Sadly, I missed the U.S. Lighthouse Society tour that went to Head Harbour just a couple of weeks ago because I was under the weather, but our group had a great time on Campobello and the Down East Maine coast. As always, we appreciate the efforts of all the people along the way who are always so helpful and welcoming. I wanted to mention that we have 2 live stream episodes coming up later this month. On Thursday, July 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the guest will be Walter Sadovic, an architect who has worked on a number of lighthouse restoration projects. And on Wednesday, July 29th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the guest will be Jasmina Barrera, an acclaimed writer living in Mexico City who has an excellent new book called On Lighthouses. A reminder to check out uslhs.org to learn about all the things the U.S. Lighthouse Society does, including tours, the passport program, the research catalog, and much more. And if you listen on a platform that allows you to rate and review us, please do so. We will be back next Sunday. Until then, to all our regular listeners and our new ones, thanks so much for listening and keep a good light.